The state of Texas is known for those Friday night lights. They won't get any brighter than this. The Cotton Bowl is finally here. It's the college football playoff semifinal. Ohio State and Texas. These are the pregame keys on the podcast. It's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Bill, what's left?
Nothing. Like literally nothing. No, I don't. I'm this Steve Sarkisian starting game script thing has been on my mind since the press conference yesterday when he was asked about expanding it because they're so good at it. It's like, do you want to script the entire game maybe if you're in Texas? I think the first 3-4 drives of the game might tell us which way this thing's going to go. Because if Ohio State can keep Texas out of the end zone on those 10 to 15 scripted plays that Sark likes to draw up, and I don't know that Texas is going to score the rest of the game. Or this, they're going to have a pretty hard time doing it.
I mean, that has been the trend for the first two playoff games for Ohio State. You knew, if not on the opening drive, at least by the end of the first quarter, which way that game was going to go, which we did talk about that all year. If Ohio State could throw the first punch, if they could turn it into a street fight, the way that G. Scott described it earlier in the week, they were more likely than not going to win those games, and they set the tone right away.
And that's why it's really on the quarterbacks, I think, who comes out of this game and starts the game, not the hottest necessarily, but the cleanest. Doesn't make mistakes, doesn't throw an early interception, doesn't get rattled or fumble on a sack, because the defenses are going to come out of the gate swinging, and you're going to see pressure early from both sides. Whichever quarterback I think gets out of that first quarter with the fewest mistakes is probably the one that has his team in position to win this game. And Will Howard's played pretty flawless football the last couple weeks. Ohio State hasn't surrendered a sack in 5 games, which is kind of crazy when you consider all of the changes that have happened on the offensive line. You would expect Texas to come out and try and confuse Will Howard early with the zone, with pressures from the linebacker, with pressures off the edge. I think that's really the key to me. It's not what Steve Sarkisian does in that first 15 minutes. It's what Ohio State does offensively to make sure Will Howard has an opportunity to be clean with the football and to be able to move the Buckeye offense early. Because if they get to the point where you start to feel like Texas defense has momentum, that's a problem for Ohio State.
And normally on the pregame keys, that's when we would be bringing you Ohio State's status report, availability report. Well, there's not going to be one. This is a college football playoff game where they don't mandate the teams participate in those the same way the SEC or the Big Ten does. So Texas said, well, they're not going to do one. And Ohio State said, cool, neither will we. I did check with some people at Ohio State throughout the week that, it would likely look the exact same as it did against Oregon. So we'll see as pregame warmups get here, Bill, but it doesn't look like there will be any surprises or any Buckeyes that aren't going to be able to play that we didn't already know about.
No, the only thing I wondered about was Lathan Ransom, because we were told during the week that he was a little under the weather and missed one of the media availabilities. But then when Ohio State put out its best Fridays in football tweet, Lathan Ransom was front and center. And I like Penn State and Notre Dame were dealing with illness. I don't know that that did not appear to have any impact on that game whatsoever. So
I don't know. A lot of people probably felt sick watching that game.
The second half was highly entertaining, in my opinion. But I think, I'm not expecting anything out of the ordinary for Ohio State.
It's a game where you want to have your best players available. Texas gets back
Cameron Williams,
not Kelvin Banks. Sorry, I get my giant tackles confused. They get Cameron Williams back. It'll be interesting to see how much that knee is affecting him, and with what we've seen out of Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau in the last few weeks. If they get that sort of pressure against him, he is still dealing with the knee, but he's going to play. So that's at least something to keep an eye on if you're Ohio State. And wondering how you get to Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, to me, it wouldn't want to be, if you're Texas, a situation where you're throwing somebody back out there to keep position at tackle. I mean, you want your best players, but if there's any doubt about his health or if there's rust or any layoff, Ohio State's going to key in on that no matter what. They're going to rush the passer. They're going to be trying to, turn Jack and JT loose. But I wonder if Texas has to have some plans in reserve if they're getting beat early, if they're getting overwhelmed by the pass rush, because that happened to Oregon. It happened to Tennessee. They've got 12 sacks in the last 2 games, and that's, as we've said repeatedly, this is the best version of the rushman that we've seen in years.
I think the natural thought might be like, well, if there's an offensive lineman who's not 100%, maybe you overload that side, maybe you blitz some, but Ohio State didn't have to blitz against Oregon. If this is another game where Ohio State's front can get after it and pressure Quinn Ewers without having to send Cody Simon or Sonny Styles or Lathan Ransom or Caleb Downs, I think it's going to be a long day for Quinn. This Texas offensive line has been good all year, but I don't think they've played many defensive lines like Ohio State's, and we know they played Georgia a couple times, and I thought Georgia's defensive front kind of controlled that game.
They ate them alive.
And I think Ohio State is just as capable. So It can be as simple as that. If Texas can't block the Buckeyes, then the Buckeyes should get out of here with another win.
Berm, you have anything left that we haven't touched on?
No, I mean, it's really, I keep going back to the quarterbacks, like I said earlier. Like, I really think this game is going to come down to which guy plays better between Quinn Ewers and Will Howard. Will Howard's played flawless, and so, like, you start to wonder, is that sustainable? I'm nervous. I've got a little bubble guts. Not Penn State style bubble guts, but I feel like the more you are,
Not Penn State style.
the more you lead up to this.
What about Michigan style?
No, not that either. This is just, I just wonder how Ohio State gives Will Howard the opportunity to get going early, because we've seen it the last 2 weeks. Like, they just come out of the gate firing, a lot of misdirection, a lot of motion, a lot of getting Jeremiah Smith the ball quickly at the line of scrimmage, doing things like that. And if you can get that going tonight, then those nerves will dissipate pretty quick.
Who do you think is going to be the guy? They want the G Scott on the first play. I think it's going to be a less obvious guy to go to.
I think it's maybe like Travion out of the backfield, or Quinshawn out of the backfield, a little swing pass.
That's scary that we're all thinking the exact same thing. Texas should be able to figure it out if we're all thinking it's going to be like I thought I was going to say Travion screen.
Yeah. I think you just got to discourage them from being too aggressive with their edge rushers. And you do that early, whether it's that little option, the speed option that Ohio State runs to Quinshawn, or maybe a little dump off to Travion, something to just to get that first ball through the hoop, and that is a really important thing for Will Howard. It has been all year. When he's come out of the gate firing, he's been awesome. When they come out of the game a little bit slower, it takes him to the second or third quarter to get going. And most of the year, they've been pretty great with it. He's been. I can't imagine there's a quarterback with a better first quarter passing percentage than Will Howard this year. But
he was posting a lot of Tate Martells.
Those games have been easy to spot. You could see when it was coming. Texas is 100% the best defense Ohio State's going to play this year, all three levels. Again, we've had this argument all week. That doesn't mean they're the best team Ohio State's played. I think that there's a real argument to be made that they have underperformed. But you have to just be a little nervous. Like, okay, is this the day that they're going to put their best performance together?
It sounds like you are.
Yeah, a little bit.
He told me like an hour ago that he was starting to get nervous.
Yeah.
I can feel
it.
The juices.
Yeah.
It's coming off of him. The vibes are getting nervy. Maybe it was the heat on that bus on the way over here. If you're worried, if you're around here, trying to get to AT&T Stadium, it's not going to be a problem. The roads are fine. The weather is fine. There are no issues around here. It's a little chilly. Some wind tunnels only when you open the door to come into the stadium, but everything else is fine. And it is beautiful in here. This is a great venue for a big-time game, and it is almost here. Bill, any final thought from you?
Let's play ball.
Let's play ball. All right, can't wait. Friday Night Lights, deep in the heart of Texas, Ohio State and the Longhorns for a spot in the national title game to play Notre Dame, just as we all drew it up. At least some of us had that in our brackets. We'll see if the Buckeyes can hold up their end of the deal here shortly. Thanks for joining us for a very noisy version of the Pregame Keys on the podcast. For Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham, I am Austin Ward. We will talk to you after the game. Enjoy it, folks. We'll see you then.